Tuesday, relatives have been speaking of their desperate search to find their relatives as they are arriving in Tacloban, the worst affected area. The true scale of the devastation of the typhoon Haiyan has not yet fully been assessed, as some places still haven't been reached. We do know 11 million people have been affected, 660,000 homeless, 10,000 was the initial death toll given in Tacloban. This has been revised down to 2,000 by the local government, but of course it raises questions about the accuracy of those figures. We've got reports from our correspondents there in the Philippines and here in Paris. Let's bring you now the latest from Ismail Wolf, who is in Tacloban.
This is one of the first commercial flights to Tacloban. Almost all its passengers are relatives, desperate to find their loved ones. With them is Thomas, a Canadian coming to rescue his pregnant wife and son.
Yesterday, around midnight, I heard that the survivors were staying inside a church. All of their houses have been destroyed. The news from nearby villages isn't good either. It's really a disaster.
A deathly silence envelops the plane as it lands in a disaster zone.
Normally it's a very sweet airport without any problems. Today it's hell on earth.
For the survivors, there is perhaps no other choice but to flee. It's been 5 days now since this super typhoon ripped through this area of the country. Thousands, tens of thousands have been infected. Many are coming here desperate to seek evacuation out of this, what they consider to be hell now. There's not much option for them to stay at home, and they have no idea where else to go. But for them, these days are becoming more and more desperate as evacuation looks like it's not coming soon.
And you know, the people inland, you know, they've always been very
So when you get to your family, how are you going to get them back here?
I don't know.
Or are you going to go north?
I might go north. I might go north.
They're talking about a village near mine, and there's only been a few survivors. It's the worst thing I could have heard.
I think some of my supporters survival kicked in. I don't know.
Thomas sets off to try to reach his family's village, a hopeful and dangerous trip into the unknown.
A desperate situation, as Ismail Wolf's report there shows. Medical aid, we're hearing, is stuck outside the zones worst affected in the Philippines. This means, as well as having no running water or electricity, doctors are having to cope with little or no supplies. The pain and suffering of the people being made worse by a lack of proper medical help.
Overflowing waiting rooms as the sick and injured seek medical treatment. Hospital staff are struggling to keep up under difficult working conditions.
We are admitting them as much as we can because we cannot refuse them. We are managing them in the available supplies, medicines, and manpower.
This hospital in Tacloban was badly damaged by the super typhoon, with many corridors still partially flooded. A lack of emergency generators means no power, hampering treatment.
I don't know what we can do. She really needs to have an X-ray done quickly so we'll know what's wrong.
It's the same story on the island of Cebu, where the Bogo District Hospital has no running water or electricity. Staff there say they're having to make do.
We have no water here, and then we just doing all the resources, just like collecting rainwater, just for the use on emergency cases. We need generators because our laboratory is crippled. We cannot do anything without the power.
Doctors are forced to treat patients by flashlight until power can be restored. Hospital staff say they desperately need water and the medical supplies promised by the international community. And for their patients, surviving the aftermath of the typhoon may just be the hardest part.
Catherine Viet's report there on how people are coping with the medical challenges that this situation is producing. Well, an appeal has been launched by the United Nations to raise the $300 million it says is needed to help the Philippines in the wake of Typhoon Haiyan. The UN, of course, says 11 million people have been affected by the destruction. Let's get more now. Earlier, Mike Penrose spoke to us about the humanitarian situation. He's Director General of Action Against Hunger.
In natural disasters like this, it's predominantly a logistics exercise in the early days. It's very, very difficult to get through. Where we have to land our aircraft is a different island to where we have to distribute it. So getting stuff in is very difficult, but it's starting to flow. Things are starting to get through now. The UN has set a high bar, and the donors at the moment, the international donors, are not coming up. They've given very little at the moment, only 35 million. And compared to what was given in Haiti and in Pakistan, that's not high. Action Against Hunger is asking for 10 million alone, and we're confident that we'll reach it, but we need it now, not in a month or in 6 months' time. We've put out an appeal to all the international donors that it's in these first hours and these first days that it counts, that it really makes a difference, and the slow response is really not helping.
Moving on, new names have gained a seat on the UN Human Rights Council. China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Vietnam and Cuba. People are asking how this has happened when these countries have less than a clean record on treatment of their own people. We were joined earlier by Hillel Neuer, Executive Director of UN Watch.
This is a black day for human rights. We are talking about countries like Russia, where the girl rock band Pussy Riot, some of their members are in prison and have been missing for the past few weeks. This is a